Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. In this segment, we are going to be discussing your emails and voicemails that you've sent into us. That's coming up live from the Bob Varley studio here in Orlando, Florida. This is the Diz Unplugged. This is the Diz Unplugged episode number 788 for the week of March 3rd, 2015. The Diz Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, and Adventures by Disney Vacations. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Well, hello again, and welcome everybody. My name is Dustin West, and I will be your host for this segment of the Diz Unplugged. We are here live from the Bob Varley studio in Orlando, Florida, and I am joined at the table this week by my good friends John Magi, Kevin Close.
Hello.
Jenny Lynn Knopp.
Hey, guys.
Or Jerry Lewis. Hello, ladies.
Julie Martin is also here at the table. And back in the production nook, we have our associate producer, Craig Williams, and Rhino Clavin.
Hello.
Hello, Rhino.
Hello.
Hi. Well, again, like I mentioned in the intro, we are going to be talking about your emails that you've sent in to us and your voicemails for those of you who have gone to our contact page and submitted voicemails. And I'm just going to keep talking right now because Craig's making a little last-minute adjustment. So I'm going to be the one that keeps talking. And
smooth. You made it through, Dustin.
Talking, right?
Like nothing happened, Dustin.
You know what? I can't help it, really. Sometimes I just got to point out the obvious. It's come to our attention on the boards. We've had a little thread going on with suggestions for the show, and one of those that came up quite often is you guys would love to hear voicemails and emails again. I don't necessarily want to go into the whole topic of that thread right now. We have gotten quite a few suggestions, and we'll touch on that at some point. But what I will suggest is that you guys continue to go out. We'll put a link to it in the show notes page, dizunplugged.com. If you guys could please leave us your suggestions and comments about what we can do to make the show better, we would greatly appreciate that, and what kind of things we can add to the show and what you'd like to see and hear. So
I think it's important to point out, too, that a lot of stuff on that thread is stuff that's already in the works that we're doing.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff just can't be done, and some of the stuff is really good stuff people are suggesting. So we'll take those into account.
Absolutely.
And always looking to improve. But I think the other thing to point out...
I'm happy the way I am.
You are. Perfect. I think the other thing to point out, too, is we've got a lot of people saying we want to hear voicemails. You guys talk about voicemails. We hear you guys answer emails. The problem is we didn't get a lot of voicemails.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to go to the contact page that we have at dizunplugged.com. That, again, will be in the show notes page. We didn't have as many submissions this week as we'd like, but we could definitely use your help. If this goes well, we'll definitely do this segment again in the future. I think it's a favorite among
How will we know
listeners.
if it goes well?
Well,
what's the barometer?
I guess I'll decide.
Oh, he's the commissioner this week.
I'm the commissioner this week. It should go well. But if we keep getting more in, that's just going to help that process. So I'll just open it up to you guys. Does anybody have an email that they would like to share with us?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
Can we point out that he's Linus today? I just love that he's Linus.
It's actually Pigpen. It says, be messy, be sloppy, be Pigpen.
I don't think the camera picked that up, but that's...
No, we have.
Oh, my gosh.
I think we should fire our cameraman. For all of you who do not grow up in Florida, I think that's everybody, right?
Except Jenny Lynn.
I grew up in Florida, but not in Orlando.
Right,
I grew up in South
For
Florida.
everybody but Jenny Lynn. How has your viewpoint of WDW changed since moving to Florida? What was your favorite ride or attraction then compared to now, and why? I will go first because I read the email. I moved to Florida in 1994 full-time, but I've been coming since 1971. And my viewpoint of Walt Disney World has changed because I live here. I don't sit and obsessively plan about going back to Walt Disney World. That's now about Alani. I used to get depressed halfway through my vacation because it was halfway over and I had already done half, and now it was all downhill, and it was horrible because I had 4 more days instead of 8 days. So a lot has changed. I still love Disney. I love going to Disneyland. I love Adventures by Disney. I love Disney Cruise Line. It's just that when the proximity to the parks, it's kind of, it fades a little bit, the excitement about going. I understand Kathy Whirling gets excited about getting up every morning, and that's great. I find that life and a job and everything else intrudes on going to Walt Disney World.
Don't you think it's fair to say, though, that your excitement about going to a Disney park has diminished over time? Like when you first came here,
Oh yeah, it wasn't
much
like I
more-
was slammed in
Yeah.
the head. It was
Right.
kind of, I decided when I first moved here that I was going to go to the parks at least every day.
At least
And
every
I was
day.
going to walk around Epcot every night, and that would be great exercise. And then you realize that just getting to the parks takes an hour of your time,
Right.
or an hour and a half of your time. And then walking around, it takes 3 hours. And then you got an hour and a half to get home, and you realize that it's not feasible to go every day because you have laundry and dogs and cooking and work. So I think it's changed. My love of Disney hasn't changed. My love of the Disney World parks, and it's not less. It's just I don't have the burning desire to get there as often as I used to. But it's in my backyard. So, what did I love when I was a kid? It hasn't changed. I was fascinated by It's a Small World when I was a kid. I'm fascinated by It's a Small World now. I love Mary Blair's artwork. I always have. That hasn't changed. One of the things that I loved, and I've talked about this before in the Fast Pass conversations, is when you went into the Magic Kingdom, the first couple times we did it, you make the loop and you try and be organized. When we were kids, there were no Fast Passes. You just went from place to place. You went from pillar to post. And if there was no line, you got back in line and went back on again. And this was before the internet, so there were slow times. We used to go after Thanksgiving and before Christmas, and it was the slowest time of the year. And I can remember just walking onto attractions, not a line for anything. The only thing that ever had a line was 20,000 Leagues Beneath the Sea, because that's because it loaded really slow.
Right.
But so yeah, my love of the parks and the artwork and the details, and that's really what I love about Disney, the details, that hasn't changed since I was a kid. I wish I could still go to Disney with no forethought, with no planning, with no appointments to ride rides, with no appointments to have dinner. We used to make our reservations when you walked into Epcot. There was, under Spaceship Earth, there was, what did they call it? Was it not Communicore? Whatever those little television sets were. And you talked to a live cast member, which was, cutting edge technology at the time, but you made your reservations that day and you would say to them, what's available for lunch? And they tell you, well, this, and this is available. Which one do you want? So I missed the freedom that I used to have with Walt Disney World.
I know I can share my experience. I moved down here as a cast member twice for the college program, and then eventually to live here and work at Disney full time. Now, before I had done that, I vacationed at Disney World pretty much every year. My family would go down, and after being a cast member, obviously I was in the parks more often as a cast member than I am now because I was obligated to be there. But I agree with you, Kevin. I feel like my love for Disney is still the same. I would not disagree with you, but I'm different from you in that I think my excitement level is still there, but I just keep finding that other obligations are getting in the way from me getting there more often. So moving down here, the things that I love and the things that I'm excited about have changed for sure, but I still love it and I'm still excited about it. I know for me, coming down here, the things that I loved at Disney World were the big rides, the ones you did have to wait in long lines for, like Space Mountain or Splash Mountain, stuff like that. Now what I find as a local is that I found more pleasure in those little experiences or the lesser known rides that have some sort of repeatability for me as a local. Like I never really liked Dinosaur before I came here, and now I find that ride hilarious. It's very quotable. It's almost like an inside joke to go ride it. And so anytime I'm in Animal Kingdom, I have to ride Dinosaur. And it's not something I would have done if I was vacationing here, but because I live here, I'm able to do those kind of things, find those little pleasures that are repeatable for me.
Yeah, piggybacking on what you said, I did grow up in Florida, but I grew up further away. It was still a vacation for me. We still had to travel 3 to 4 hours to get here. And I haven't found that moving here has changed the way that I view Disney. My excitement level has actually increased in some ways because Disney becomes commonplace in your life as a whole. I still get excited when I see Disney, the Magical Express, going on the highway, with me. Or Disney actually reaches out into the community.
You should come spend some time in Kissimmee. You'd be excited all the time.
I would be totally thrilled. But, Disney also reaches out into its local community. So Disney comes into my kids' schools and they run, competitions and things like this. So Disney is not just a vacation. It's in all factors of our life. Everyone here wears Mickey Mouse shirts. It's very commonplace.
It's definitely part of the community down here.
It's a part of the culture here.
Yeah.
And I love that. I really love that. But as you're saying, hasn't affected how I view Disney, but it has affected how I tour the parks. I don't, before I would be like obsessively up 2 to 3 hours before a rope drop so I can make sure that I was there. I wouldn't leave until the park was closed. Now it's great for me to just go. I can be there for a couple hours and leave and not, be having a sob fest on the way out because I'm so distraught that I'm going out of the gates. Also, what you were saying about the rides, that has changed so much for me.
Yeah.
Before, it was always about the headliners. Like, I have to get on Space Mountain or I'm going to die. Now, I rarely go on Space Mountain because of the wait time, but I will not miss the People Mover.
Yeah.
I will not leave that park until I ride that ride, and it's something I can always walk on, unless it's broken down. But, walk on, take my one ride, and I'm good.
I used to think Disney was perfect. Everything Disney did was perfect. Except the French fries. The French fries were always awful. But once you start working with Disney and you get a better understanding of the machine.
See how the sausage is made?
Yeah.
Right. You realize Disney's not perfect. It doesn't make me love it any less. But you realize it's not the perfect thing you think it is.
I didn't have experiences like you guys. I went once when I was 5, and not again until I was 20. Most of you know that. So after that first time, I was hooked, and I was probably the only high schooler that wore Mickey Mouse overalls. Like, I had T-shirts, hats, whatever I could get Mickey Mouse.
Please find those pictures. Please.
I do have one that I can think of off the top of my head.
That'll be in the show notes page, disunplugged.com.
But what Jenny Lynn said about being able to spend just a couple of hours and leaving and not feeling like, guilty that you're not getting your money's worth. We went this past weekend and had a staycation with the kids, and on Saturday it rained all day at Magic Kingdom. And we did go, and we were there for a while, but once it got really just where we were like, okay, my hands can't get dry, it's just miserable.
And it was cold.
I'm like, you know what? We can leave. We are not obligated to stay here because we are on a 7-day vacation and we're going to go back to like Minnesota, So we were able to go and get dry and do some other things at the hotel with the kids, and that's what I enjoy. So that doesn't take away the magic at all because I can still go experience it whenever I want. And I loved Figment, I loved Mr. Toad, and I loved You Can Fly, which is no longer here, 2 of those things. And now my favorite attractions
if you had wings?
Something about flying. All
It
I
was
know
in
is
Tomorrowland.
it was a little
Yeah, I
white
remember.
car, and you like flew towards this screen, and it felt like you were flying.
if you
I was
wings.
5, so
I think
I
it
don't
is if
really
you have
remember the
When
the
I was a
exact
kid,
name.
it was Take Flight, I believe. Something like
So now my favorite things are usually things that my kids enjoy. So they love roller coasters, thank goodness, and Big Thunder and Splash Mountain. I'm waiting till they can go on Everest.
that. Oh, man.
So those would be my.
Mine is very similar to Kevin's. I think you know that. We've talked about it over and over again. And again, it's not that my love of Disney has gotten any less. It's just other things get in the way. The only other thing I will add to being a local, what it has done for me, I've become protective of Disney in a strange way. If I see a cast member in my Publix wearing their costume, I get very upset.
Yeah.
Oh, Corey does too.
I'm so mad. Especially if they're wearing their name tag, because you're not supposed to do that. The other thing is if I see a Disney vehicle off of Disney property, I get upset. I'm like, you're not supposed to take that around and just go joyriding in that. So you talk about seeing the Magical Express bus. Every once in a while, the Magical Express bus will show up, and you think, what is it doing here? You think, that just shouldn't happen. So I
Yeah,
think-
why is it on Orange Blossom Trail?
Where are you going?
So So that happens too, I think. Very, very protective of Disney.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Now that you all live here, does life not get in the way of you going to the parks? And we all have a job that
does.
revolves
Oh,
around
yeah.
Disney.
It's
Sorry, when I was a kid, we only drove down here because my great grandmother used to live down here, so we came to visit her. We'd go to one of the parks one time, and I remember being a kid being like, "I'll sit in this car forever to get to Disney World. I don't care." And now I live 30 minutes away, and I think, no, it's 4 p.m. I-4's terrible. I'm not going to sit in the car.
Right,
It's not
Osceola
worth
Park
it. Yeah.
is going to be crowded.
Yeah, and it's like what you said. My brain is always going, okay, 30 minutes in, then I park, then I have to walk, and that's 15 minutes, and then once we're actually where we are, I'm like, all right, I can meet you in 2 hours. And then I'm like, I can only give you 30 minutes of my time because then I have to leave and go whatever. It's just life gets in the way once you're here. Yeah.
I think we can all agree to that.
And sometimes what happens with us is we think, all right, we're going to go to the parks this week. We'll make a commitment. We're going to go to the park. Well, on the way, we have to drop off the dry cleaning and pick up dog food and go to
Oh, you're going to
Publix.
go right past
You're
there.
going to right past this, and you're going to go past the bank. And by the time you do all that, it's too late.
We hear people and see people on the boards all the time who tell or say things like, well, I'm going to come to Florida. I'm going to go to the parks every single day. And you don't want to be a downer, but we all come with that idea that, you know what, it's possible.
and unless you won the lottery and you don't have to work, maybe that is feasible.
And have people to do your stuff for you.
Right.
Because
You
that
know,
can-
someone has to go to the doctor and someone has to take the dogs to the vet and someone has to go get the dog food. So it's all of those little errands that, and Jen's right, it takes us about 25, 30 minutes with no traffic to get to Disney from where we live. But once you start planning what you have to do on the way to Disney, well, now you're at 2.5 hours.
Well, sometimes here it's always crowded. So you just nowadays, when I was a kid, I don't remember that stuff. But nowadays, I'm just like, I really don't want to be in around 10,000 people right now. You want that own little personal bubble, but because we're there so much, I don't think that bubble exists around us quite as strongly.
Let me tell you,
anymore.
this past Friday night, I felt like we were alone at Epcot. Even there were people there, but it was not crowded. It was very nice.
But it was raining. It was raining, wasn't
No,
it?
it was just cold.
It was raining out of
It was
our
just
house.
cold.
Something I want to throw out there is, the change that I've seen in my kids. It's actually probably been more significant than my own personal change. We lived far away, and so obviously going to Disney was a huge, big deal. The big family vacation, get in the car and you drive for 12 hours or whatever it is. And now, because they live here and it is a part of their lives, and I think they've become a little bit desensitized to it. There actually are days where I'm like, let's go to Disney, and it's like, oh, come on, Mom, I wanted to stay home and play my video game. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
Kids.
Oh, my kids haven't reached that point. That would never happen.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add to this one before we move on?
Well, I want to say my favorite thing when I was a kid was, like I said, I would drive down, wait forever. I was trying to think about it. I don't know if I had a favorite ride when I was a kid because my favorite thing was to sit on a bench with my grandmother because I was afraid of everything. And we just would watch. We'd sit, and I would love to see the places. I would love to see Tomorrowland, Adventureland. I remember loving to see everything. And I feel like maybe I've lost that a little bit, but because now I'm clearly Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean, and those are rides I did, but I always remember being nervous but proud of myself when I did them. But my favorite thing in the world was just to be there with everybody.
Now you're not
and
experiencing it,
see
you're
stuff.
getting to something.
Yeah,
Those
Yeah.
things are
exactly.
things on
Yeah.
the way to getting
I
there.
just want to give credit. This email came from Amanda Squires in Thornton, Colorado. And I want to add one more thing. Someday go into the parks and sit on the bench and watch the people who walk by you and see how many of them look happy. Everybody in Disney World is stressed out. Watch the people walk by you and listen to the conversation. This vacation was expensive and you're going to have a good time.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to squeeze in this last thing about my kids. When we do go to the parks, the experience for them has changed from it's less attraction oriented and it's more about those little experiences. Getting the autograph from the character or having that snack somewhere on property or doing the Phineas and Ferb, mission in Epcot. It's the smaller things that are important to them more than the very big headliner attractions.
Exactly. And that's definitely how it changes from living here. I know cast members are like that too. A lot of cast members will go around trying to get every character's autograph that they can find on their day, in the parks, that kind of stuff. I wanted to go ahead and play our first voicemail that we have. So let's go ahead and do that momentarily.
This team, huge fan of the show, Steve Porter. I'll keep my question short and sweet. If you had to choose a plan for the next 10 years for Walt Disney World's future, would you include more investing into expansions like new hotels, a new park, or something, or would you reinvest in what they already have by like making the Journey into Imagination back to its original state, or upgrading the ride system to Buzz Lightyear, something similar to California? Just interested to see what you have to say. Thanks so much. Bye.
It's a good question. I know for me, I'd probably invest in new stuff. What do you guys think?
I think that one of the things we're seeing with the amount of people that they're getting into the parks these days with Fast Pass and the amount of crowds they're bringing in, I think we're seeing them testing the waters for an expansion. And I think that we're coming to a point where Disney could use a fifth theme park.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, stuff needs to be done and rehabs need to be done, but I think we're looking at, we actually need a fifth gate in order to absorb these crowds. So I like to see them really invest in that and get that going.
Walt's original statement was that the parks were always changing. I don't foresee them ever bringing back the original Figment. It's going, get over it. It's
Right.
not coming back.
Yeah, agreed.
It's just, I mean, they bring back Captain EO for a time, but I don't foresee them rehabbing a ride back to what it was originally.
Well, Captain EO was an easy insert too.
Right, it
it
was
was
a
just
movie.
he passed away, and they didn't know what to do with that space anyway, so they were like, "Let's just throw it in there."
Right.
Yeah.
I would like to always see the park move forward. And don't get me wrong, there are things they do which crush me. That, you know, they take out certain things, they change the logo. I'm a huge
Yeah.
fan of the old Disney World logo, which was the big D that was sort of squared off and had the mouse ear globes in the middle of it. I love that. I collect that
And
stuff.
I was a big fan of the Epcot attraction logos that they had for the original round of attractions that
I
they had.
agree.
And you can find that kind of stuff all over the place. And Disney even started selling that kind of stuff around, I think around the 30th anniversary of Epcot. I know for me, like I said, I would invest in new stuff, and agree with John that I think a fifth gate is probably necessary at some point, a fifth theme park. But I am happy to see that Disney does a very good job at maintaining at least the attractions that they have. Things are constantly going under rehab and refurbishment and stuff like that. So it's not like they're completely ignoring the older attractions. They're just not reverting them back to their original
Well, in some
state.
cases they have, like they put the Tiki Room back to its original
Yeah.
show after they
Captain
had changed.
EO.
Yeah, but like.
but I think that had
Rhino
more of the fact to
pointed-
do with the fact that it caught on fire and they had that technology.
Well, and they had the opportunity where they needed to do something anyways, and it was probably a quick, easier thing to do. They just had to change what the birds were saying. They didn't have to, change the whole inside of Journey to Imagination to what it was before. That would be a much larger project. So yeah, I get what you're saying. They have done that on some occasions. I am a big fan of both ideas. I like the idea of taking care of what you've got before going on and providing more. I would get sad to see things not maintained. I actually would like to see the Carousel of Progress spruced up a little bit, maybe
Yeah.
bring that up to date, add another decade or two, so we're not stuck in the 80s at the end. But, that's just me.
They did put a flat screen TV at the end scene, so
True, and Grandma
You
does
know
play a
it's-
mean game of virtual reality.
Oh, Pong. Virtual Pong.
okay, cool. So does anybody else have?
Anybody think we need any more resorts?
No.
Done.
No, because my issue is, it's like what you said, John, is that if they keep building resorts, it's okay, great. Disney can keep taking more and more people, but that means the lines are going to get longer and longer and longer, and the capacity of the parks are going to keep nearing. I just think I said that wrong. They're just going to be more full, and it's going to the experience people are having is going to go down with that. It's too many people at once.
Yeah,
Somebody's pointed out in chat, and I think that's true. I would like to see Disney utilize all of the space in each of the parks.
yeah.
Like when you walk through Adventureland, other than that, the Dole Whip thing, a lot of that stuff seems dead, blank space, and I would like to see them use that. I would like to see them fully involve all of the parks. That would also keep people busy.
I would love to see more countries in World Showcase and maybe bring in the attractions to the countries that are there that they never did.
I'd like to see a good
Finish
theme
out the
park
ideas that they originally had.
Yeah.
in Hollywood Studios.
What would you like to see? Say that again?
I would like to see a good theme park put inside of Hollywood Studios. A theme park. You noticed that part.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kevin. I think, especially your example of Adventureland, is there is some real wasted space, and it looks like they are doing some organization of that space, and hopefully that'll get a little bit better. But the number one thing that just messed with Adventureland from the get-go was adding the spinning carpets of Aladdin right in the middle of what used to be a nice open little, almost like a plaza, and that just crammed the whole thing.
I never understood why they didn't push it back a little. Why is that to be right there in the middle? It's like walk straight on. I mean, it's a nice ride. Kids enjoy it. Yeah. It's a good kid ride for that area. But it always bugged me that they plopped it right in the middle.
Right in the middle, and it definitely messes with the flow of that area. And there's plenty of examples of that kind of stuff scattered throughout the theme parks. Does anybody else have another email they want to do?
I have one.
Yes, please.
Jocelyn from Westport, Massachusetts. For those of us who don't get down as often as we like, do we bother going down with all the cranes? Or adjust our visit to Magic Kingdom and Epcot? What do you think? I honestly don't know if I can wait that long, 2017, but is it worth it? My opinion, do not let construction dictate your vacation. If you love Disney World, you're still coming with your family to have a good time and spend quality time together. It's just a crane. And you know what? You can look back and say, hey, that was 2015 because look, there's a crane right by the castle.
Right.
Who
The crane
cares?
has a Facebook page now. It's like, so like people, it's
tagged.
like on what Julie's saying, it's like, don't let it dictate, make it something fun.
Right.
Like, be like, remember when the crane had a Facebook page?
And make it fun, like make it look like you're holding on to the crane or something. I don't know. Just don't let it affect it.
The 25th anniversary was one of my favorite vacations that I took to Disney World, and it had that cake castle, the Pepto-Bismol thing.
I
think that's a
resent
good
that
point.
cake.
I think it's a good point
I
that Julie
resent that
makes
one.
in general is don't let any one thing or any couple of things dictate whether or not you go, because first of all, Disney's always under construction.
Yeah,
you're always going to find it somewhere. But don't wait for I'm going to wait for Avatar Land to open.
And if you find out that
I think that's
Pirates is down, please don't tell us it ruined your vacation. If your entire vacation revolves around riding one attraction,
You're doing it wrong.
you're probably not going to the right place.
I have an email to read.
Sure.
Billy Lagstrom from New Jersey. He says, hello. On every trip, we try to find places to eat that are not the usual tourist trap. Here at the Jersey Shore, like Pete would know, a good diner has better food than a lot of the restaurants. What places are good that are not a chain eating hole?
Eating hole.
What places do the locals eat at, and what would your team recommend? I had two.
Well, let me tell you about my eating holes.
Go ahead.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, dear. Wow. Two in particular are places that I have worked at, that I've waitressed at, and the fact that I can still say that I really enjoy them, I think speaks well to those establishments. They're both on Sand Lake Road, which is actually closer to Universal Studios than Disney, but still not so far away that it's unreasonable to go there. One would be Rocco's Tacos and Tequila Bar. It's a very fun place, Mexican, a little bit more upscale. It's not a hole in the wall. They've got a lot of tequila, over 300 kinds of tequila. The guacamole is the best I've ever had in my life. I could exist on it. And the only thing that you really need to understand about Rocco's, in the daytime, it's a great restaurant, very normal place to eat lunch. In the evenings, it's a bit of a different story, and there's a progression that takes place. It starts out as a restaurant, then it kind of moves more into a club feel. They have a live DJ that comes in and plays extremely loud music, really, really loud. And then after that, it kind of evolves even more into a bar type scene where people are dancing next to their tables in the aisles. And if Rocco happens to be there on a weekend, it gets really a little bit crazy because he passes out free tequila. So
There's really a Rocco.
there is. There actually is a Rocco.
I was hoping Rocco passed out. He passes out. I thought, well, that makes it fun.
Wow, this is
makes
really
it-
a modern life.
He makes it a fun little
good
thing.
one.
He has Pee Wee Herman tequila shoes that he puts on and he walks the bar and all of that. It's entertaining.
Wait.
It is.
I think she's
But-
just saying words.
He has
I'm not-
Pee Wee Herman tequila shoes.
He does, and
Are
they
the
hang
shoes
above the
filled with
bar.
tequila?
They're the white platforms that you see Pee Wee Herman wear in Pee Wee's Big Adventure, and he'll put those babies on, and he'll walk up and down the bar to the dun 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 dun. This is not a joke, people. This happens, and then he passes out free.
I hear it every time.
Passes out.
Passes out from altitude sickness.
He distributes Yes. He distributes tequila for free amongst the
Sounds like a
patrons.
family environment, doesn't it?
So that's my only caution. You need to know what you're getting into. If you're looking for a more quiet, calm restaurant experience, go for lunch. That's not going to be the case. It's an extremely popular place. You might have a wait in the evenings. The other place is Seasons 52, which is also on Sand Lake Road, and that's a very different experience. They have a menu that changes according to the seasons, and it's a very calm, quiet bar with a restaurant, but they've got wines and everything. It's a bit fancy.
Side note,
Yes.
their portions are really small.
Yes.
So if you are Corey
Yes.
Martin or anywhere like Corey Martin, do not eat at this restaurant. You'll have to order like 4 entrees.
It's a Darden restaurant. It's owned by Red Lobster.
It is, but it's really great, and the reason why the portions are more sizable. See, I prefer those portions
Me
because
too,
I don't
but
eat a
Corey
lot
doesn't.
at a sitting. So for me, I feel better about myself because I can finish my plate without feeling
I
like
haven't
I'm going
been
to
there in
explode.
a while. Is it
But
still that all like the grains were grown next door? They found them in the parking lot, kind of thing.
They
People
attempt to
the
do that.
waitresses brought their salad in with them, and
It's
kind of.
supposed to be a very healthy menu, and one of the reasons why the portions are smaller is because there's no item on the menu that exceeds a certain amount of calories, and I don't remember what that specific number
Does it
is.
sound like
but
fun dining or what?
It's a it's elegant without being too expensive.
Yeah.
Well,
And
he-
if you like fresh food, it's a good choice.
I think here's the deal with Orlando.
I'm just going to jump in.
Yeah.
For about an eighth of the price, you can go to Sweet Tomatoes.
Right.
I was going to say.
It's kind of all the same thing, and you can go back as many times as you want. So even though it's all good for you, I found Season 52. Pardon me, it's just an opinion. I found Seasons 52. The portions were ridiculously small. There is a difference between us. I've got a foot and a half on you, and 10 pounds. But it was the most pretentious place I've ever been.
It is a bit pretentious. I
It's,
definitely give you that.
This is made out of quinoa and cobwebs, and there's only 26 calories in it.
I've had that.
Can I do
I happen to like
sort
quinoa
of
and
a
cobwebs.
nutshell of sort of the off-property dining? Let me just give you my sort of opinion. If you head right off of Hotel Plaza Boulevard, you're going to hit fast food heaven. You're going to hit all the same fast food places you can find at home. If that's what you're looking for, that's great. Because I got to tell you, on more than one occasion, we've looked for McDonald's.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for something other than that, what you want to do is you want to go a little bit further out. There's Celebration, has some great options. And there's also where Seasons 52 is, which is Sand Lake Road. And
It's
they call-
actually known locally as Restaurant Row.
It is.
fantastic options along Restaurant Row.
Yeah,
Melting
there's
pot.
so many places.
Oh my God, I hate the melting pot.
I always come out smelling
I'm going to
like
cook
grease.
my own food. I'm going to cook it at home.
Roy's Hawaiian restaurant is
Roy's,
there.
I agree with for sure.
I
Oh my
think in
gosh.
general, in like the surrounding Disney area, the things that you're mostly going to run across are going to be what you know as established chain restaurants. And you do have to find these little places, like not little places, but these unique locations like you're talking about, Restaurant Row or Downtown Celebration, that have probably locally owned restaurants or more unique restaurants.
We have a favorite restaurant that's very, very family run. And if you meet me in public and ask me about it, I'll tell you. But I'm not going to talk about it on the podcast because there's only 30 seats in the entire restaurant, and I don't want you getting my taste.
I know exactly what
But
you're
if you
talking
find me in public, I will give you the secret. But don't email me because I'm not telling
and
you.
it's really good.
So just be willing to venture off Disney property. Be willing to venture outside of the immediate Disney bubble that's there. But again, I want to say this though too. There ain't nothing wrong with going to, McDonald's or a Burger King or something. Sometimes that's what people want.
There's Crossroads right outside of
Crossroads,
downtown
exactly.
Disney that's full of places to
And
eat.
for the most part, the chain restaurants that you're used to, because they're in the immediate Disney area, are far better than what you're used to at home. They're at least kept up better and probably cleaner and
There's a restaurant
bigger.
in the Crossroads that I hear great things about and I've never been to, and it's not a chain. It's called Johnny's Hideaway.
Yes.
Have you ever
Correct.
been there?
Yes.
I just wanted to throw out some of the things that anyone who's looking for better food options, a little bit further outside, but they shouldn't miss it, especially in Orlando. The first is obviously Four Rivers Barbecue.
Yum.
I mean, that is, locals eat there. It gets ridiculously long at dinner. You might wait 30, 40 minutes in a line just to get your food.
It's good though.
Also owned by Four Rivers is the Coop. It's a fried chicken place in Winter Park. It is heaven. Like, literally.
If you're going up there too, I mean, Craig, I was going to bring up that general area, so it's funny that you're already there is that Park Avenue is just a little. It's like the next street over from the Coop, and there's a lot of like really good restaurants on there. So.
The Ravenous Pig is in Winter Park.
Yeah, and even the Ravenous Pig's other restaurant for beer lovers, Cask and Larder. They brew their own beer in-house. The food's excellent. If you're anywhere
drinks are
up on
awesome.
town, go to Orlando Brewing. It doesn't have food, but some people don't. Some people
If you're
drink
out
their
behind-
meals.
If you're out behind Disney and headed toward Winter Garden for any reason, there's a place called Yellow Dog Eats.
That was
Oh,
my
that
next
place is
one.
awesome.
That was my next and
Everybody should
final.
go to Yellow Dog
Yeah.
Eats.
Yeah, it's I think it's really cool. It's inside of this old house. I think it's like pet friendly. If you have your animal there, bring it
That
with
used
you.
to be in Winter Park, tucked back in an alcove off Park Avenue.
Oh wow.
And they moved out towards Winter Garden, Nicoe. You're going to have to Google it, and you're going to have GPS, because I can't even tell you how to get there, but you shouldn't miss it.
And for all these places, you're probably either going to have to rent a car or get a taxi. I don't think.
Oh, don't take a taxi, rent a car.
Yeah.
To go to Winter Park in a taxi, you could rent a car.
All righty. I think we should actually play the next voicemail if we can, Mr. Craig, whenever you are ready. Please.
My name is Michelle, and I have a question regarding Hollywood studios. I seem to remember, now this goes several years back, but maybe I was also dreaming this, but I seem to remember when the Great Movie Ride first started, you used to have boats that would take you around the inside versus the tram vehicles. And I also seem to remember when the Tower of Terror first opened, there was more of a backstory that was presented in regards to the hotel itself, as well as the guests in the elevator. I don't know why they changed it, or if they changed it again. Maybe I was dreaming this, but it was just something I always think about when I go to the studios, and I never had the ability to find an answer. So I'm going to run this past you guys and see if maybe you can provide me with an answer. And thank you so much, and I love your show. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for calling in. I think you were dreaming some of that stuff. I'm not aware if they've
She's
changed.
thinking Pirates of the Great Movie Ride.
Pirates of the Great Movie Ride. This is. I wanted to play this email specifically because it touches on something that I actually have experienced before. Is when you start thinking about all your experience at the Disney theme parks, sometimes your memories of what used to be there can kind of be almost elevated to something that never was. And now there was never boats in the Great Movie Ride, and I'm not sure if they've taken away anything from the Tower of Terror, but I can't tell you how many times I've said, do you remember when such and such was in the line at Space Mountain? And somebody gives me a look like, what are you talking about? And just to find out that it was actually in a different ride or something like that. So I just thought it was interesting.
I think there are times when you run into cast members who might give you a little backstory about the attraction that you're on.
Yeah.
That sort of fills it out for you, but you don't get that every time. There were no boats in the Great Movie Ride.
There weren't no boats in the Great Movie Ride. But it is very possible that, at one point, cast members were more likely to give you that kind of information more willingly, and now perhaps,
all cast members have only worked there for 3 months.
now they don't have that information. So thank you, Michelle. Anybody else?
Yeah.
I do.
Go ahead.
Didn't you go already?
No.
Seems like you've been talking
Yes,
a lot.
he did.
I was going to say, seems like you've been talking forever. All right, mine is from Jake Englewood of Tennessee. And he says, I was just wondering if any of you have been to Disneyland Paris, and if so, how does it compare to Walt Disney World? I know for a fact that Kevin, Dustin, and I have all been to Disneyland Paris. Anybody else?
No.
Oh, how sad for you.
My first
Yeah.
trip is to Disneyland is coming up
Very exciting.
in a couple weeks.
In sort of the big picture, Disneyland Paris is much smaller than Walt Disney World. There's 2 theme parks and much fewer hotels than Walt Disney World. They do have a Studios, which is terrible. Don't bother going to studios at all. It's pretty much just
Crush's Coaster is in People love that.
That is a very good
that is a very
coaster.
good ride.
However, the rest of it seems to be like, I remember it being surrounded by chain link fence.
It's chain link fence and cardboard. Is what it's made out of.
However, their Magic Kingdom is really spectacular.
Oh my gosh.
Their Magic Kingdom is beautiful. Completely different aesthetic out there because they're dealing to the Europeans.
Their castle is much more fanciful than any of the castles in the United States, and the reason they explained that to us was because Europe has castles. They don't need a fake one, so
Right.
it's much more. It's
very, very Ivan Earl-ish.
Like it's from a drawing or something.
Right, exactly.
I think it's funny to point out our example of Adventureland from earlier. Our Adventureland here at Walt Disney World versus their Adventureland, which has so many little hidden areas, and it's like this grand, vast, open place. It has a lake in the middle with a pirate ship, and there's caverns that you can get lost in, and all this stuff. Whereas we have Aladdin's carpets plopped right in the middle of a walkway. It's the Magic Kingdom, the main lands that they have, Adventureland, Discoveryland, Frontierland, and so on. Those, take the ones we have at Walt Disney World and expand them at least by twice as big. And
they're also themed for a European audience. I had an epiphany in Disneyland Paris. We were standing and looking at there's an audio animatronic diorama just outside the castle of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And our guide, we had a VIP guide because it was an Adventures by Disney trip, and he said to me, "Do you see how this differs from the French version of this fairy tale?" And I said, "There's a French version of Snow White?" And he said, "Yes. It's called Sleeping Beauty." And I said, "What?" He said, "Sleeping Beauty and Snow White are the same fairy tale." He said, "If you read the original fairy tale, there were 7 fairies. Walt Disney made it 3. And that's the French version. It's lighter and more fanciful. The German version, which is very German, it's kind of dark, take out her heart, has the 7 dwarfs. But it's basically the same story." And I stood there with my mouth open.
And that's also carried throughout Fantasyland.
Right.
They sort of theme the areas of Fantasyland to where the original fairy tale came from. So when you go into the Italian Pinocchio-ish area, the colors are different, the vibe is different as if you go into Germany and you see that vibe. We're going back in October. Very, very excited to see Disneyland Paris again. It's an awesome park. They have a hotel which I think is what Disneyland California tried to do, which is the Disneyland Paris Hotel, which is actually the entrance to the park.
Yeah.
You have to pass through the hotel to get into the park. So I think that's an incredible sort of introduction to
the hotel is almost like on stilts.
Yep.
Because the ground floor are the ticket windows, and right above that is
The lobby.
basically. It's my gosh,
It's very different.
Very interesting. Sounds very interesting.
It's very beautiful and very cool.
It
and
is.
If you can go, please go. The only thing I would say is it's, again, nowhere near as big as Walt Disney World in Florida, and so there's not as much to do.
But they do have a downtown Disney area.
They do.
Which
You're right.
is like a good little mix between the one that we have at Disneyland. I'd say it's a little bit smaller than the one at Disneyland, but it's connected right
I
there
understand
by the
they've
parks.
remodeled it. When we were there the last time, it was like a depressed strip mall.
Yeah, and they had that Wild West show, like
Which is one of the most popular things they do out there.
Yeah.
People actually go to Disneyland Paris just to see that show.
wow.
So go figure.
Yeah, be interested to see how it's changed the next time we go. I actually have one that I want to read if I can find it. It's from Roger in Knoxville, Tennessee. This will be a pretty easy one. Do you know the name of the artist and music you used on your Beach Club overview video that was recently part of the 7 and 7 podcast series? I loved it. Thank you. Well, thank you, Roger. I'll email you the exact name of that, but this question, I think me and Craig see these emails coming in every single day. What music do you use? What service do you use? We use a service. It's a royalty-free music service called Smart Sound. You can look it up at smartsound.com. It is not an inexpensive service, so it's kind of hard for us to give you the names of these tracks as if you could go on iTunes and just download them and listen to them like they were songs on an album. It doesn't really work that way. They're royalty-free tracks that we edit to fit our videos. So I just wanted to touch on that because I've seen a lot of comments come in asking, what music do you use in your videos? And it's royalty-free music. But you can check it out at smartsound.com if you would like to. Yeah, that answers that. Let's go ahead and play the next voicemail.
This is Mary Junker. I'm a little bit behind on my podcast, and I just listened to the episode from February 17th about clever items for your Walt Disney World vacation last week. Someone on the team mentioned bringing duct tape, and many wondered why you would need it. Here's why. When it rains, duct tape can be used like a poncho for your shoes. If you are wearing shoes with mesh tops, like most sneakers, you can cover the mesh with duct tape and your feet and socks will stay dry. When the sun comes out, peel off the tape and throw it in the nearest trash can. You may not look your most stylish, but you won't be wringing your socks out either. Hope this helps someone. Love the show. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Mary. That's a really clever idea.
I've never heard that tip before. Never heard it. That's interesting.
I don't know if you guys talked about it. I wasn't here for that show.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite tip, and I loved it, was for parents with little kids. Bring a couple of, the lids they put on fast food sodas.
Yeah.
Bring a couple of those with you. And when the kids get a Mickey bar, slide the stick through the straw opening, and you have a drip tray for your Mickey bar.
Oh, that's clever.
Right.
Yeah, because let me tell you, Disney does not like to hand out anything extra. From personal experience.
Please, sir, can I have a
your
napkin?
napkin.
Right.
Can I have an extra cup so that my kids can share the popcorn?
no.
Oh, no. We count those at inventory. And I was like,
Oh, boy.
are you serious?
I thought this was really clever.
I'm like,
because
I'll pay you.
You walk around the park, and every little kid is like smeared with ice cream. I thought it was a great idea.
That is cool. Yeah, I love those tips like that. I would never have thought to
I
use
wouldn't
duct
have
tape.
thought of that, and I'm a mom. That's
I use,
extremely clever, and I will be using that.
Like Target bags or something like that. You put your foot in them and then put your shoe on, and then you just cut the around, and it keeps your socks dry.
Do you people have no pride?
like the cable
See it.
guy.
I cut it low.
Like when the cable guy comes in and he puts plastic around his shoes to not track mud in. Okay, does anybody else have another one they want to read?
I thought that this
I like
one
met Jim
was
Carrey, the
pretty-
cable guy, and I was like, I don't remember that scene.
I thought that this one was a pretty
Yeah, do
good
that
question.
Okay.
This is
I thought so
Debbie.
too.
Debbie, I don't know how to say your last name. Is it Diakaki?
She's not going to answer.
That sounds Greek.
From Athens, Greece. She says, "Hi team, it's been a while since I've written in, but did so on account of the link on Facebook. My question is about beaches and cream. My daughter and I will be going there for the No Way Jose ice cream sundae that is not available from their counter service. I have made an ADR, and my question is, how gauche is it to, did I say that word?
Gauche.
Gauche, thanks. Don't know. Don't use it. Gonna have to add that one to my vocabulary. How, I'm assuming that means yucky. How yucky is it to order only ice cream?
No,
Inappropriate.
Okay, now we all know what we're saying.
Are you not using the word-a-day toilet paper that I gave you for Christmas?
I'm starting tomorrow.
Thank goodness.
Anyway, how inappropriate is it to order only ice cream instead of an entire meal, seeing as how we have the ADR? It's no big deal because we can plan to eat there. I would just rather have my meal at World Showcase.
I don't see it as a problem.
Me neither.
I don't
It's your
either.
freaking vacation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you made the reservation.
Reservation. Order what you want to order.
If you just want French fries,
Here's the
just
deal.
order French fries.
Here's the deal. If you're going to be eating just ice cream, that means you're probably going to be leaving the restaurant quicker than somebody who would have had a meal,
Right.
a full meal anyway. So you're going to open that table up quicker.
Right.
than-
I was going to say that from a former waitress's point of view. You're in, you're out. That's quick turnover on the table, and the server might actually end up making more money. As
Right.
long as you tip appropriately for your ice cream sundae, then the people that follow in after you will be there to do their thing, and then tip appropriately on that. But turnover is very important in the life of a server, so you're not hurting anyone.
But the fact that they won't serve it at the counter, I mean, you don't have a choice but to
Right.
take
What
an
else are you
ADR.
supposed to
Exactly. And
do?
that place is called Beaches and Cream. It is
It's an ice cream
marketed
shop.
as an ice cream shop.
Exactly.
Like, you are fine.
Yeah, the other food that they serve at Beaches and Cream isn't, I would say, is not what makes Beaches and Cream a destination eatery. It is the ice cream and the desserts.
Can I give a little spoiler? We, Kevin, Pete, Dustin, and I went and did a review of Beaches and Cream. And we're going to be recording that hopefully soon with a whole bunch of other reviews.
Yeah.
So you guys will have a full review of the food
Oh, good.
at Beaches and Cream.
And dessert.
And dessert.
Did anybody get the Florida Sunshine? Is that what it's called?
No.
Oh, that's my favorite.
We're going to save our review for what we ordered. We're going to save that for that. But yes,
I have a
please.
follow-up question to my original.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, were you done?
No, I was still talking.
Done now. This is from Sarah Voss, and it goes back to the original question. Most of us who are Disney superfans have at one time or another daydreamed about living near Walt Disney World. Seeing as members of the podcast team all live and work near Disney, I would like to ask each of you the same two questions. Having experienced living near the parks, if you had to do it all over again, would you choose to live near Walt Disney World even if your job didn't require it? And if Walt Disney World didn't exist, would you still purposefully choose to live in Central Florida? Here's the deal. I'm going to answer for myself anyway. I love living here. I didn't move here specifically because of Disney World. I moved here because I was introduced to Central Florida because I came to Disney World. After a while, we didn't go to the parks every day, and we would venture out and explore the rest of Central Florida. That made me fall in love with it. The second part, if Disney World didn't exist, chances are I wouldn't have become aware of Central Florida, and so no, I don't know that I would live here. So yes, Walt Disney World played a part in me moving here, but I didn't move to Central Florida to be closer to Walt Disney World.
Well, I can tell you for myself, I moved here specifically for Disney to work at Disney as a cast member, and I did live closer to the parks at one point. And I would do it again in a heartbeat, move down here. It's one of the best things I've done in my life. But if Walt Disney World didn't exist, I have a feeling, not necessarily that, not what you said, like it's the reason that brought me down here, but let's say if it just disappeared tomorrow for whatever reason, would I move away or would I stay here? It's taken me 3 years to warm up to Central Florida. I had no concept to Central Florida other than Disney before I moved here, but I actually really like it, and it's starting to really grow on me, especially having moved closer to downtown and College Park and stuff like that. I'm finding more cultural areas in Central Florida that aren't just revolving around Disney. So
I think what you said is a good thing too. Is like once I moved away from where I originally lived, when I moved here to go to school here, and ended up working at Disney, but. Once I moved into the second place I moved, which was a little bit further away from Disney, it's like what Kevin said, or Dustin, like you explore a little bit more, so you get to see a little bit more, and there's like areas that you're like, oh man, I hate this area, but there are a lot of like cool little pockets everywhere now that we've been here for so long that we found that are.
Don't you think that's true of everywhere though?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
not different than anywhere else.
Well, I also think, though, there's other factors involved, too. We enjoy the climate here.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not like if Disney World didn't, we would go back to the Northeast because of the snow and the cold.
We're talking to you, Boston.
Exactly. But I think that there are some people who move to places and they might live in a place that's kind of remote. So there might not be those opportunities to explore.
I think for Corey and I, we moved because Corey wanted to work for Disney. I still wasn't done with school, so I went to Valencia and UCF.
Me too.
And I enjoyed both of those experiences very much. I don't believe that we'd still be in Louisiana if Walt Disney World didn't exist. I believe we still would have moved away. He and I both always wanted to live somewhere else. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was still Florida because we love the beach so much. Yeah. And I would think we might be living like in Key West or on a beach somewhere, or possibly even in California.
I probably would be in California. So I was gonna say, I'd be in a warmer climate, but I don't think it would be this climate.
Do any of you regret moving here?
No. I love it.
No, I was going to say, I didn't move here for a job. I didn't have this job when I came. I moved here for Disney specifically. I don't regret that at all. I would do it definitely all over again. As far as if Disney wasn't here, would I have picked that? I don't have a firm answer on that.
Well, if Disney wasn't here, I think this would still be Orange Groves.
I do like the culture of Orlando. There certainly is enough to do here. The Amway Center has tons of things that, concerts and everything. There's enough to keep busy, and I like keeping busy.
I think that's really the chicken or the egg thing. If it wasn't for Disney, I don't know that all of
I
that
guess
would
that's
be
true.
here.
Well, if all of those other things weren't here, I wouldn't be here. I'd be heading to the beach with Julie. I like to keep busy.
Let's pretend that for whatever reason, Disney disappeared tomorrow, but the rest of Central Florida was exactly as it is.
I would have been in California.
I'm not sure. I have grown to love the culture. I love the little restaurants that we have here and the little minor attractions, the kitschy minor attractions that we have on 192. I think all of those things are fun. So possibly yes, but at the same time, the beach calls.
Oh, our story is Pete and I moved here specifically to be near Walt Disney World. This was the job. This was the business that we were building. So we decided that this is where we were going to relocate for sure. In addition to the fact of loving Disney, and I had a job here for a short amount of time. But, I think we love Central Florida. I mean, I can't think of anywhere else you'd want to move to.
Yeah.
I'm only giggling because if anybody watches Survivor, there's a coconut vendor that's participating in the season. I'm thinking maybe I should be a coconut vendor.
He sells coconuts?
Yeah.
Is it like, does he refill the coconut vending machines?
He has a feather in his hair.
I know, I enjoy him.
I have a question
God.
to ask you. How many, this was a different question altogether. How many former cast members? You were a former cast member. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4,
5. We had that discussion in the car. You worked for Disney or just Universal?
5 out of
Disney
Yeah,
too.
he was in the college program.
Did you work for Universal as well?
Yep.
Okay.
So the only people in the room that didn't are Jenny Lynn and I.
That's correct.
And Pete, if you were in the room.
And Pete. He's not in the room.
As far as the rest of the team goes, Teresa did not.
Corey did.
Kathy
Corey
did not.
did. Kathy Whirling did not.
But Kathy has close to.
She has a child.
Cast member.
Tell me about working for Disney.
She bred a lot of Disney's work.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one creepy way to put it. That was very couch.
I'm sorry. I have another email that I want to read just in lieu of recent events. Somebody's phone went off. William from Los Angeles, California says, "Professional broadcast, please. Can you turn off the notifications on your iPad when you're recording a show? These past 2 shows of 2015 were horrible with the iPad email notifications every 2 minutes coming through your broadcast. Not nice when you listen on headphones and think you're getting emails."
I like the way you read it.
Well, he put an exclamation
It was very
mark.
Jim Cantori out in the storm.
We apologize, and as much as possible, we try to limit that. But there are so many electronic devices in this room. Sometimes we have mistakes. So.
Sometimes we forget.
Yeah.
We try to put stuff on vibrate, but we forget and place it on the desk. I mean, sorry.
Other times it's helpful. Like I think when we started out with the trip, we were having issues during the live broadcast that we were not aware of in the studio, and had we not had our phones with us as we were doing it, we were becoming aware of things that the listeners were having problems with that we were trying to correct as we were doing the
that's why
show.
we hear the beeps now.
Kevin watches the live stream of the chat while we do the show, and so that's helpful too because he's able to bring in information from our listeners. So stuff, it's just the way stuff is.
Stuff happens. Sorry about that. All right, we have one more voicemail that I want to play, and I think this one will be interesting. Jenny Lynn, pay attention to this one.
Jeez.
Yeah, Jenny Lynn.
Plug, this is one of your wow, I can't even speak today. Sorry, I am super tired. This is one of your Disney fans here. Just letting you guys know that you guys are doing an amazing job by providing a lot of Disney news and insight on the Disney Unplugged on YouTube. I just subscribed not too long ago, and I just can't wait for our next video to come up. You know, I'm one of those dedicated looking forward to fans. I know I'm not the only one. I know there are plenty others out there. But I thank you so much for doing what you guys are doing. You guys have also inspired me to do new things at the Disney theme parks. I'm also an artist. I love to draw and sketch. And so now when I go to the Disney theme parks, I sketch out characters that I'm going to meet in the Disney parks. And when I meet those characters, I get them to sign the drawing that I do of them. And of course, not only does that become memorable to me, but that also becomes memorable to probably that character. And it's a great experience. It's actually another way of bringing the magic to myself and probably to my friends, because after that character signs the drawing, I give it to a friend who has never been or can't even make it to a Disney theme park, probably because of financial problems or, other things in mind. But you guys have inspired so much and provided so much, and I thank you for it. Also, I have an idea for a show. I don't know if Dustin wants to pick up on this, or Jenny Lynn. But also, another good idea for a show would be seeing the Disney theme parks through a teenager's eye. As a teenager and having a lot of teenage friends, there are some of us who haven't been to the parks, and we judge the commercials. We see little kids in the commercials, and we don't expect a Disney theme park to be our limit, our place to be. So, I know Jenny Lynn has a group of really great kids, I bet, and, she probably, understands what probably teenagers, or she sees what teenagers, I'm so sorry, she knows what teenagers love to do in the theme parks, and probably she can bring in some insight of probably what they like to do in the parks. But thanks for listening. I hope you listen. I bet you guys do listen. Thanks so much for everything, and I'm sorry for my weird jitteriness. I'm kind of nervous. I'm really excited to leave this voice recording thing, whatever it is, voicemail, and have a great day.
Well, thank you, Adrian. That was charming at most. That's what we took away from that, is you're very charming.
At first, I thought he was a Californian from SNL.
Oh, one of the Californians.
I hate that sketch.
Stewart.
First of all, what I want to say is your idea with the sketches and using that as kind of, instead of doing an autograph book, I think that's really cool. But then to be able to give that to your friends as kind of a memento is really nice.
He's a sweetheart.
When I first moved here, I think it's really cool because he personally did it.
Yeah.
But what I did for like my siblings back home is like, I'd get a picture with a character, and then you go back and have that character sign it later, and then I would send it to them. So it was like, hey,
well, yours is mean,
because
you're in the photo alone with the character. Look at me.
But I think that's really cool that he did something like that. I think that's a really, like what you said, a unique kind of make it your own experience thing. Yeah, like, it's really cool.
So JL, what do you think of his idea?
I think it's a fabulous idea. I think it's an idea that's actually relevant to a lot of families. A lot of times when kids hit that teenager age, they might hit a little bit of lull in their excitement for Disney. So I think it's something that a lot of people would like to hear of. Moms such as myself, I do have a teenager. I actually am going to be having 2 teenagers here in a couple months.
Are you pregnant?
Yeah, and they're going straight to teens. Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have had.
I just had a teenager.
I will be birthing a couple teenagers in the next couple months.
She's in her 420.
My oldest is turning 15 in a couple weeks, and my son will be 13 in a couple months. And I actually think that they could give some really good ideas to other teenagers going to the parks. What are the things that they would be interested in? It's not the Dumbo ride.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
It's like magic carpets, right?
I think it's a good idea.
It's
something we've discussed a little bit before. And I think
it's a fantastic idea. And Adrian, thank you for that idea of drawing for the characters to autograph. My 15-year-old is an artist, and I'm actually going to pass that idea along to her because I think she would really love it, and that would be something that would help her get into it more.
You also did that in a little bit in your coverage of the cruise line.
Yes.
With the kids, what it's like to travel with those different age children on the cruise line. So I think that's helpful to a lot of folks who have.
And they do.
Kids
The different age groups see it differently. Different things call to them. There's a different pull for different attractions. It's a fabulous idea.
I'm not a teenager, obviously, but I have a teenage sister.
I play one on TV.
I play one on TV. And she's graduating from high school this May, and her and her 2 best friends are actually going to be taking their senior trip here to Disney. So just so you know, not all teenagers are disenchanted with Disney. I mean, she's been coming every summer since she was 7, and her best friends are really big fans, and we're going to be hosting these ladies. So I'm going to get some things from her, too. Maybe not like video, but maybe tips after she's been in the park about different things, just to give you guys.
Okay. Cool. Does anybody have any other last-minute emails that they want to add to the mix? I'll take that as a...
Oh, you were going to read one.
I read one.
No, the other one.
I think he decided against it.
Oh, actually, we actually decided against that.
Oh.
It was too controversial.
Okay.
It was way too controversial.
It was way too controversial.
Teaser there.
You'll never know what it is. Okay, well, then that is going to do it for this...
What's controversial about it?
Nothing.
It was the best email ever.
Stop.
That is going to do it for this edition of the Diz Unplugged. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week for another episode of the Diz Unplugged. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Have fun.
Do we have to say bye?